Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Avodah Zarah Daf Nun Hey. We begin 6 lines off the top of the Amid with a story. Shal Agrippas Sar Tzava es Rabban Gamliel. We all know there was a Jewish king by the name of Agrippas. So he had a general by the same name or similar name. According to the Girsa on the side, his name was Agrippa. Agrippa, who was a Tsar Tzava Shel Agrippas. And Rashi explains that this general was actually a guy. Okay, so he had a question that he posed to Rabban Gamliel. Shal Agrippa Sar Tzava es Rabban Gamliel. Siv b'sei raschan. Look, it says in your Torah, Hashem expresses wrath, anger, sort of jealousy. That's how the pasuk describes it, against the idols and idol worshippers, right? Hashem lakecha eish oichlahu. He's a consuming fire. El kana, right? Hashem of jealousy, right? Because that's how typically anger is aroused. Anger and jealousy are sort of linked together. So it's a euphemism, obviously, regarding Hashem. Hashem doesn't, but that's how the pasuk describes this sentiment. Kale kana. So the question is, why this type of reaction? Typically, what arouses a person's jealousy? When he feels a perceived threat by some sort of competing entity that threatens to take his his place. But by Hashem, who compares to Hashem? All these phenomena are lacking substance. They're nothing. They're worthless. Right? So klum is skane. Typically, a person who has kin'ah, it's only elachacham. If the person's a wise man, so he's jealous of the other wise man, competing with him, b'chacham. Or if he's a strong man, priding himself with his physical strength, v'gibor, so Begibor is upset at the other Gibor threatening him. Ba'asher, wealthy man who feels he's being usurped by the other wealthy man. But here, why would Hashem feel this type of sentiment with respect to these idols that have no substance? Amar loy. So Rabban Gamliel responds, just the opposite. Let me give you a parable to explain this. What's this comparable to? A fellow who married a second wife in addition to his first wife. How would the first wife react? Would she accept it? Would she tolerate it? Would she feel resentful to the husband? You know what it depends on? It depends whether she can justify it in her mind. So chashuva mimeno, if the second wife is more chashuv than the first wife, more prominent, more talented, so she understands her husband's motive. She doesn't necessarily feel, threatened or negated. She understands why he took the second one. Ein miskanaba. She's not jealous. But pchusa mimeno. But if wife number 2 is of lower stature, lower standing than the first wife, why'd you marry her? You have no reason. Miskanaba, that arouses her jealousy and anger. So just the opposite. It's precisely because Avodah Zarah has no value, no meaning, no purpose. So why did you abandon me and go over there? So that arouses kana and anger. That was Rabban Gamliel's response to his question. Here comes another question posed by a Yid. His name was Zoinin. Amalei Zoinin, he asked the Rabbi Akiva, look, let's get this off the table. We both know Avodah Zarah has no power, no substance, no meaning. Okay, so this was like a disclaimer before he posed this question. Libi, v'libach, yada, both our hearts understand, we both believe and understand full and well that Avodah Zarah has no substance. Okay. That's pretty clear. But still, how do you explain the following? Sometimes we see men walking to the house of worship, Gavri, men, the Azli, they go Kimitbri. They're limping. Their body is falling apart, says Ra. They're nisparku evireim. They're weakened. They're collapsing. Va'asukim mitzamdi. Then, upon their return from their place of worship, they're back together, walking along with confident, healthy strides. Well, Avodah Zarah has no value, has no power. How did this sudden, change occur in the base of Avodah Zarah? My time, how do you explain this? Sir Kiva says, I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you what's going on. It was meant to happen regardless. They were meant to become healthy at this point in time. It so happens to be that it coincided with their visit to their idol. Hashem is not going to change plans. Hashem is not going to change the program just because they're going to mistakenly attribute it to their Avodah Zarah. Amar Leisi says, let me portray it with a story. La'adam Neman, a fellow who was an upstanding, trustworthy fellow. Everybody would trust him with their deposits, with their money, right? Shoya Be'ir, he was in town. B'chol b'nei Iroi, and all his fellow townsmen, Hoyu Mafkidin, Etzli, Shalei Be'edim. They would feel free to leave their stuff by him without any witnesses, without any proofs, knowing that he's going to be a man of his word. There was one man who refused to trust him. Uba Adam Echad, comes along one man, V'hifkid, Loi or Etzloi Be'edim. Okay, so he insisted every time he left something with this person, he would have Edim standing there to ensure that it's all documented and verified. He wouldn't trust this man. Pamach Echad. So happens that one time he came to give him something. Shachach v'hifkid etloi shaloi be'edim. He mistakenly left something by him without verification, without documentation, without edim. Oh, now this man could seize the opportunity and put the other fellow in his place. Amrullah Ishtay, so the wife of the banker, tells him, you know what? Let's teach that customer a lesson. Boy v'nichberenu. This time we're going to deny. He comes back to pick up his item. Never happened. We'll teach him a lesson. He doesn't trust us. Now he's going to pay for it. Amrullah. The husband responds, no. I'm not going to stoop to his level. We're going to keep to our standards. We are people of ne'emanas, righteous, upstanding, trustworthy people. We're going to stick to it. Amar la v'chim pnei, just because this foolish man also all along has been treating us disrespectfully, inappropriately, in a non-trusting way, doesn't mean we're going to stoop to his level. Onuna abed es emunosenu. You think we're going to now give up our trust? No. Just because he's doing his thing, we're going to keep to our standards. And we're going to give him back his item without further ado. Afkach. The same over here with the fellow who's getting healed, allegedly, due to their contact with the Avodah Zarah. It's not so. It's just a facade. Look, Yisurin, hardships, physical hardships, etc. Chas v'shalom, right? B'shah shemeshagran. Oysan ala adam. So in heaven, when they dispatch Yisurim to a person, it has a very specific purpose, very defined time frame. It's programmed. Mashbin oysan. They impose an oath on the Yisurim. When to come, when to leave, how to go. It's all tailored, custom made perfectly for this person. Shloi telchu el b'yem ploini. You're going to come to him only on this time, on this and this day. Loi teitzu el b'yem ploini. You'll leave him. He'll be healed from you on this and this day. Ubashah ploinis, on this hour. Or they plenty through that doctor. Or they sign plenty through this medicine. So it's all programmed. It's meant to happen in a very specific way. Okay. Now, kivan shegiaz man on lotzes. So back to the story of the goyim. These ill goyim. Kivan shegia zman. Time comes for the Yisurim to leave, as they were programmed to do. Sure enough, he shows up in the church. Halach zel beis avodas Zarah. Amr Yisur. So Yisurim sort of start contemplating and thinking, well, Dinu Shloi Neite, really we shouldn't leave the man. Lest he falsely credit the Avodah Zarah for his recovery. So we should stay longer than we're supposed to. But then they change their mind, so to speak. They come back and they say, no, we have a job to do. We have a mission to complete. Just because he's fooling himself, we're going to stick to our ne'amanos and we're going to leave him at this time. Just because this foolish guy is pretending, is fooling himself into thinking that the Avodah Zarah has power. Anu na'abed shvu asenu? Is that enough reason for us to violate our oath? Of course not. So it so happens that they leave at that very moment, and he's thinking it's Avodah Zarah. V'hainu d'amar Rabbi Yochanan. And this corresponds with Rabbi Yochanan. What does the pasuk in Devarim mean when it says v'chaloyim, all types of illnesses, sicknesses, roim, terrible, v'ne'emanim, and trusted. Since when our illness is trusted, what does that mean? Exactly as we just said. They're programmed. Roim b'shlichusam, sure, in terms of their effect, it's terrible, painful, it's hard. But v'ne'emanim b'shvuasim, they stick to their shvu, to their commitment. They come and leave exactly at the moment that Hashem had designed them for. Amalei Rav Bar Yitzchak l'Rab Yehuda. We have a question which sort of links to the previous discussion as well. Ha'ika beis avodas kecham ba'asrin. You know, there's this house of worship in our town. So when it's been drought, it's been a time of drought, there's no rain. So this spirit, this Avodah Zarah, appears to his worshippers in a dream. When he tells them, all you have to do is slaughter a person in my honor, and I'll arrange for rain. And they do it and it works. They offer a person and it starts raining. How do you explain this? Omar Leisi says, Hashta, good thing you asked me now. Had I passed away before you posed the question, you would not have heard from me this following lesson, this pshat. Good thing you asked, because I have an answer. The Omar Rav explained, what does the pasuk mean when Hashem speaks about the heavenly bodies, the sun and the moon? Hashem gave them out to the nations. What does that mean? Hashem allowed them to slip, to slide, to be distracted into thinking that in fact these various celestial bodies are sources of power and to be worshipped. And this eventually rids them of the world and basically gets them into Gehenna or whatever. Rashi says, Hashem doesn't push them to it, but He gives them the opportunity, He gives them the option. He leaves the door open. Here. It's your choice. So, yeah, Hashem does empower. There are evil spirits or all types of powers and spirits running around that Hashem did create, did establish, and gave them limited types of powers, limited koiches, in order to present sort of an alternative to the truth and present us with the ability to choose the right from wrong. So, yeah, it makes sense that the Avodah Zarah would actually arrange for rain. And this is all empowered by Hashem, arranged by Hashem, who orchestrated it to present an impression, an appearance, as though there are indeed other powers. As per Rish Lakish, what does the pasuk mean? If a person chooses to be a lates, frivolous, disregards the truth, Hashem allows it. Hashem's not going to stop him. On the other hand, if a person chooses to be humble, stick to the truth with humility, with dedication, Yiten Chen, Hashem will give him grace, will help him. And we learn, Balit Tami Paischalei, one chooses to go down the wrong path, Paischalei. They open the door for him, they leave it open. It's his decision, his choice. Balit Tire Messiah. On the other hand, if a person chooses to purify himself, to ascend to great heights, Messiah, they actually lead him in that direction. They help him, he gets the answer to the Shmaya. Says the Mishnah, Loikhin gas bu'uta min ha'ivd. So now we shift to the sugya of yain nesach for the next little while. Wine. Avigoy is asur. We learned the other day it's asur ba'achila, asur b'hano. And one concern is because it may be yain nesach. He may have poured it in honor of the Avodah Zarah, offered it to Avodah Zarah. Yain nesach means to pour, and that makes it asur. Asur even b'hano. So, can a person purchase gas? Gas is a wine press. Basically, it was arranged like this. There was an initial sort of a pool, a mini pool, where they would dump the grapes, and they would be doirech, they would stomp, they would trample on the grapes. Actually, they would walk on it, right? And that would do the initial crush. And then they would pile it up again and run the kaira. This was like a big beam, a heavy beam, to crush it more, to get more wine out, and then the wine would sort of drift over towards this drain pipe, where there was this basket, which would serve as sort of a filter to filter out the skins and all that. And then it would trickle down into the boyer, into the pit, into a cistern on the side of the gas. And then you have, just liquid grape juice. Eventually they would bottle it into barrels and let it ferment into wine. Says the Mishnah, a person could actually purchase a gas, a wine press, with the crushed grapes within it. So gas is the wine press, bu'uta, which had been trampled and crushed. You can buy it from a guy. Even though the guy is actually very involved. He trampled them with his feet. Now he's taking the grapes and piling them up into a tapoch, like an apple shape, like a ball, upon which they would drop the kaira, the beam. So he's very involved. It's okay. There's no issue of yain nesach until the wine drips into the bur. And it's deemed wine, it's deemed liquid. But now it's just a mush. It's not yet considered wine. And there's no issue with the guy coming into contact with it. But Yared Labar, once the juice trickles into the bar, Masha B'Bar Asr. So certainly, if the guy would touch that liquid at this point, it would be Asr. Ashar Mutter, but the stuff still on top is Mutter. It's not yet considered juice or wine. Darchin Imoyvit Kicham Begas. In fact, you can actually contribute. You can join the guy in stomping the grapes in the gas. No issue with that. And Rashi says, well, don't think it's called Mishtaker B'Isra Hana, that he's getting paid for producing something which is Asr B'Hana, because it's not so. As we just said, the wine still up on top is not wine. It's not yet Yain Nesach. Well, says Rashi, perhaps you're being Goyrem Tuma. We assume everything here is Tameh and it's an Eretz Yisrael, not meant to be Matame. Even Chulin, even non-Truma produce in Eretz Yisrael, the halacha, you're not Matame Chulin in Eretz Yisrael. Even if it's a goyz, and there's no issue of the Truma being Tameh, he's not taking off Truma, but lest it come to do the same by a Yid. By a Yid, you're certainly not to be Matame, not cause Truma to produce the grapes in Eretz Yisrael, because then you're being Matame, all the grapes, including the potential Truma within it. But if it's a guy, and he already started trampling, so then it's automatically Tameh, because once the grapes get wet with the juice, it becomes susceptible to Tumah. It's Huchshel Kabal Tumah, it's already Tameh. So now you joining in the middle is okay. And Rashi adds another point. What about Messiah? You're giving a hand, or giving a foot. You're encouraging an Iver Avera, a person that's doing something wrong. There's nothing wrong here. The guy's allowed to do this. The guy's allowed to be Matami. He wasn't instructed to protect the chulin from tumah. So in any case, it's okay to join him in the process. But you cannot be involved in actually harvesting those grapes with a guy or for the guy when it's slated for crushing in his wine press, which is tamim, because then you are actually being goyim, you're causing produce to eventually become tamim. So that's not allowed. Now, what about if it's a Yisrael who owns this wine press, but he's not an adhering person, he's not careful with tumah? So, Yisrael sho'isa betumah, right? So you know the fellow is pressing his grapes betumah, in a state of tumah. Can you be involved in that process? No. In that case, you can't be boitzer with him. You can't pick the grapes initially, knowing that it's going to become tummy. Nor can you be derech with him. You can't even stomp the grapes with him. And the reason here is because, although they became tummy already once he started trampling, but now there's an issue of misayeya. Since he's a yid, he's not allowed to be doing what he's doing. You're tummy those grapes. So by you joining him, you're encouraging him. You're mechazik him. Rashi says you meant to abstain from encouraging a yid who's doing something wrong. The point is that hopefully we'll discourage him from continuing this type of conduct. Aval, so that's as far as picking or trampling. Aval but if he asks you to deliver, empty barrels to the wine press, that you can do because that's not actually involving the grapes. Likewise, you can deliver his full barrels from the wine press to the storage. Another halacha which is related, you have this baker who is not treating his stuff properly, he's doing it betumah, so you can't be involved in the process. Loy loshen, you can't knead, v'loy erchen, nor form the bread, imay with the Jewish fellow who's not being careful. Aval melichin imay pas lapata, but once he finishes his loaves, once he bakes them, you can deliver them to the bakery for him. Amar Afuna. Here's the question: at what point does wine become wine? Yayin kiven shehischali mashech. Once the wine or the grape juice starts trickling towards, right, on the incline towards the pit, oise yayin nesach is considered wine. In which case, if the guy comes into contact, it's called yayin nesach. Tanan, but look at the Mishnah, which indicates otherwise. Only once it's in the bar, but not before that, right? You can even purchase this grape mush from a guy, despite the fact that there's much juice there, right? Moving around, trickling. Apparently it's not wine. No. Ravuna says, the Mishnah is speaking about a unique case where the wine press was plugged, and full of this material. So it wasn't really wasn't really trickling down or away. It was sort of still stationary in place. So now it's just called a grape mush, and it's not called wine at all. But if the drain was open, it was draining out into the pit. Once the liquid starts moving towards the pit, that's called wine. Tashma. Let's go to the next part of the Mishnah. The guy can only make yayin nesach if it's in the pit, but not beforehand. That's a kasha on Ravuna. Hanami here as well, because pekuka. Umalei was speaking that it's filled and it's plugged, and that's why there's no movement. Tashma. Next part of the Mishnah. Yard lebar masha bebar asav ashar mutter. Only once the liquid gets into the pit, it's considered asr. Otherwise, it's mutter. Again, it's a kasha on Ravuna. Amar Ravuna like kasha. She says like this. And apparently here we're not speaking that it's plugged. And still, because the Mishnah is clearly speaking about where the wine is trickling, and only the wine in the pit, but not the wine on top. So if it's trickling, if it's all moving, according to Ravuna, it's all considered juice and wine. Amar Ravuna like Kash, let me answer you. Let me explain to you what's going on. There were two versions of this Mishnah. Kan b'Mishnah Rishona, Kan b'Mishnah Achrona. When the Mishnah indicates that it's only considered yayin once in the bar, that's the earlier version of the Mishnayos. But I was presenting the final version, that once it starts moving, once it starts trickling, it's already considered a separate entity, considered juice, and is susceptible to all the halachas, including yayin nesach. The Sani, we find it in the Brisa. We find that there were two stages to this halacha. So in the good old days, they would say, Badad. Badad stands for three halachas. Beis Dalad Dalad. First is Ein Boitzrin. The Beis is Boitzrin. You do not harvest. You can't harvest his grapes for him, knowing that it's going to end up in the guy's wine press, because you cannot take part in a process which will result in even chulin material, non-true material, becoming tummy in Eretz Yisrael, like we explained before. So you shouldn't be involved in harvesting his grapes, which are going to become tummy. Next halacha is the Dalid, Dorchin, ve'ein Dorchin in Yisrael, nor can you crush grapes with a Yisrael who is known to be uncareful with the halachas of Tumah, Sha'is B'reis of Tumah. And the reason is, Sha'asr, L'sayeya, Yidei, one must not encourage violators. The third halacha is Dalid, Aval Dorchim, Im Ha'ived Kecham B'gas. But if it's the guy stomping, you can take part in that. Because like we said, there's no issue of Nisayeh by a guy, and in terms of being Goyrim Tumah, it's already Tumah. What about the fact that you're interacting with Yain Nesech and earning off the Yain Nesech, right? You're earning wages by helping the guy on Yain Nesech? No. It's not yet wine. It's a big grape mush, right? We're not concerned about Rav Huna, meaning, according to this version, it's only wine once it drains into the pit, which it hasn't done yet. So that's the initial version of the halach. And then the Chacham came back and changed. They changed two things. First of all, there's no issue of being Goyrem Tumah for Chulin in Eretz Yisrael. If it belongs to a Goy, there's no Truma issues. And secondly, wine is already considered wine up on the gas when it's already trickling on its way down. They switched it to the Bach says the Bav, Dal Beis Beis. So the Dal is Dorchin, Ein Dorchin Ima'id Kecham Bagas. Oh, why may not participate in stomping with a guy Mishum de Rav Huna, because of Rav Huna? Which means to say that even though the juice is still up there in the gas, but once it starts moving down the incline, it's already considered a separate entity. It has the status of liquid and is Yain Nesach. The next halacha is the Beis. Boitzrin ve'ein boitzrin im Yisrael, sha'is b'roisa b'tumah, nor can you assist a Yid in harvesting his grapes, which are going to become tamei, because here, if it's a Jew, he's going to be taking truma off that stuff, and truma is going to be tamei. You can't cause truma to become tamei, so you shouldn't participate in that procedure. V'kolshken, certainly she'en derchen, certainly you can't stomp with the Yisrael, because then you actually be metamei. That's even worse. Aval boitrin imayit kacham bagas. The third halach is the base, but you could harvest with a guy, knowing that it's going to become tamei, because there's no truma. He's not taking off truma. Shemuta ligraim truma lechulin sheberetz Yisrael. Although it's chulin Eretz Yisrael, which is going to become tamei, there's no issue of doing so. Okay, so in summation, we had a couple of questions. First, posed by Agrippas, why is Hashem getting back, so to speak, at the Avodah Zarah? He says because it's a worthless entity, and it's sort of an insult, kavayach to Hashem, going for things that have no substance, instead of loyalty and dedication to Hashem, the real. Chei ha'olamim. Okay, regarding the question posed by Zunin, why is it that we find that they get healed? Because it was meant to be anyways. Because Yisurim have a very specific, tailor-made program, when to come, when to leave, which doctor, which medicine, right? And then we learned the next point was that Hashem does sometimes give, elements of power, elements of ability to the Keichas Atumah, in order for a person to be presented with an equal choice, so to speak, and hoping he'll make the right decision. Okay, what about grapes being crushed in the gas? What is the status of the grapes, of the wine? So, firstly, what's considered wine? According to Rav Huna, although the Mishnah Rishayna, which is actually reflected in our Mishnah, It's only considered yain once in the pit, totally separate from the grapes and the grape skins. But according to Mishnah Achroina, says Rav Huna, it was a step before. It actually turned into wine as soon as it starts. Hischale mashech, it starts running into the pit, it starts sliding down and trickling down on the incline of the gas itself. Right? It starts moving towards the pit. It's already considered separated from the grapes and considered yain. We learned that one can be mishtatif with a guy, can be doirech with a guy. So although in the Mishnah Rishona there was an issue of being goyrem tumah l'chulin, but not so in the Mishnah Achroina. But regarding a Yisrael who's involved in doing this betumah, then there are two issues. Firstly, misayeya, you're actually giving a hand to somebody that's doing something inappropriate, not supposed to do that. Secondly, by being metame this material, he's actually affecting the potential truma within them. And that's certainly inappropriate for him or for you to take a part in. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha.